All right, we're at Cypress and Grow Brewery in Gainesville, Florida for our cyclocross informational meeting. So I have no idea how this is going to turn out as far as the sound and lighting, but we'll give it a shot. All right, so what I want to do tonight is just kind of talk about cross racing, what you guys, let you ask questions. I got into cross racing about 5 or 6 years ago on a mountain bike. So they had the swamp cross at the rock trails, and so I went up and did it on a mountain bike, and I was hooked instantly. So you may, I don't know if you guys watched that video, that what I love about cyclocross racing, but I'll probably rehash a little bit of that. So the cool thing about cross racing, one is you don't have to put in like God's amount of training to be fit for it. Whereas if you're doing like road racing or even mountain bike racing, when I did it, like my races were over 2 hours, and I still mountain bike race some, but with kids and full-time plus job and so many other things, you can get away literally like 5 or 6 hours a week of training to race cross. I usually put in about 10 or 12 because I like to be pretty competitive with it. But that's one thing I love about it. You can get, what I do is I'll go out and do intervals like Tuesday, Thursday, and then put in a longer ride on Saturday. And then any ride around that is just a bonus, whatever I want to do. The other thing I love about it is the safety factor of it. So a lot of people are intimidated about bike racing because of the safety. It's not like road racing where you're elbow to elbow with people. You're not on pavement at all. Well, sometimes there's sidewalks that you jump on, but you're going 12 miles an hour on grass. So should you ever crash, you're on grass and it doesn't hurt. And also I like how like mountain bike racing, you're on single track and it's really hard to pass. Cyclocross, by UCI standards, they have to be, I forgot the exact width. I want to say 8 feet, but it's usually wider than that. So I love the fact that it's wide. What's that? The whole thing. Every once in a while you'll have a course that'll jump on single track, but it's very rare. They're not technical in terms of rocks and roots. The technical aspect of cross comes in. Sometimes there'll be off-camber grass, so like it'll be on the side of the hill, or you'll have like some sand pits or some mud pits. But it's not technical in the sense of trying to get a mountain bike down a steep rocky trail. It's just technical and just keeping your bike, going in a straight direction. What else do I love about it? Most of it's grass. And the cool thing about it is you can set up a cross race course anywhere you have at least like 5 or 6 acres of land. You can set up a cross race. So they're in parks, and the venue. The other thing I really love about cross is just the vibe. The vibe of cross racing is really laid back compared to like road racing, especially. Even compared to mountain bike racing, like mountain bike racing has gotten more and more competitive. Like back in the day when I used to do it, it was a lot more of a laid back vibe. It's gotten so intense now that, which I don't mind, but cross racing is, it's just more of a kind of a community feel. And the cool thing about cross racing is you can basically see everybody the whole race. So if you have friends and family that want to come out and watch, they can see you like the whole time, versus mountain bike racing, you're off in the woods and then you pop out for a minute and then you're back in the woods for half an hour. So as far as gear, a gravel bike or a mountain bike is perfect. Mountain bike, it's interesting. Some courses a mountain bike's slower than a cross bike, and some courses a mountain bike's going to be faster. The reason why people ride cross bikes over mountain bikes is just the purity of the sport. The analogy that I think of is you could drive a Formula One car in a NASCAR race, but for the purity of the sport, they just allow NASCARs. And it's kind of the same way with cross. Once you get into like the upper levels of cross, they only allow cross bikes. There's specific tire widths you can have. It's a 33C tire. You got to have drop bars. There's some other regulations.
Could you violate those regulations by accident with a gravel bike?
I don't think so. Well, you could have wider tires.
Oh, right. But the frame and stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is, locally, they don't care. You could ride a road bike. You could ride a plus bike. It doesn't matter. They don't care. It's just if you go to like nationals or something like that, the local scene is really it's laid back. I mean, you can make it competitive on your own, but it's really a laid back vibe. And the website where we're posting the races now is flcx.org. And it's an old website that they used to have that was replaced by another one, but now they're revising that one and bringing it back to life. And so there's also a Florida Cyclocross Facebook page, and we'll post pictures and stuff of the races and things like that. But what questions do y'all have about cross?
Like if you wanted to get into it, is it split up into categories? Like
Good question. So the question for the video is, are there categories? Yeah, so it's the same categories they use in road racing. So mountain bike is like, Cat 1, 2, 3, or beginner, sport, expert kind of thing. Cross racing is, there's Cat 5 is probably where you would start off. There's women's Cat 5 and men's Cat 5. And there's Cat 4, Cat 3. And then there's the Pro 1, 2, which hardly anybody in Florida does. I mean, most of the people who race cross are not at that level. Most of the people, like when they get like real good, are going to be racing Masters because they're 35 and above. So I race the Masters 45 plus class. And what they'll do is sometimes they'll put classes together. So they'll all start together, but they don't score you together. So usually they have like the women, maybe, I don't know, the women's Masters with the men's Cat 3s or something like that. I can't remember exactly how they do it. You do have to have, I think you have to have a U.S. cycling racing license to race cross.
It's the same racing license as road racing.
It is. It is. And so you could just present that card and you're good. You can get like a temporary one day, like I think it's like $5. If you want to just try a cross race, you don't have to go out and buy a license if you don't already have one. They'll do a temporary.
They do timing chips?
Some races do timing chips. None of the ones locally do. The local ones are more grassroots. So the way it works is every racer will have, every promoter I should say, has their own venue, but all the races count together as points. So it's not like one race promoter puts them on all over the state. There's a guy who does the Tampa one. There's a guy, Todd Leedy does the Gainesville one. Josh Thornton does the ones in Dade City. So Josh actually has his own series. It's called the War Series, Wicked Awesome Racing. He's from New England. And so he has 3 races in his series. So you can, if you do all of those, you get points, and you can get, he'll give awards for his series, and then you can get awards for the whole Florida State Series. And then if you're into it, there's a one-day Florida State Championship race. And last year it was over in Palm Coast. The year before, we had one in Gainesville. The year before, I think, was in Dade City or the Brooksville area. Josh probably does the best race courses. He has some really good venues. They're hilly, and he's raced cross professionally, so he knows what a pro race course looks like, and he does a really good job. So his is the first race. It's at the end of September. The biggest cross race in Florida is Spooky Cross. That's on Halloween weekend, right before Halloween, and it's in Orlando. And that will have the biggest turnout. They'll have probably a couple hundred people show up for that race. And people ride in costumes. It's really fun. They have a lot of stuff for the kids and things like that. So last year, everybody said they wanted Spooky Cross to be the first race of the season and then go from there, but there are a couple races before. And the reason is because that's when it kind of starts to cool off. The first couple races are pretty warm. End of September, we still have some humidity lingering around, and it still can be warm. But the great thing about cross is the weather. It's in the fall, and so typically it's awesome weather. And the other thing I like about cross versus mountain bike racing is if it were to rain during the race or before the race, it doesn't really mess up the course. Whereas mountain biking in Florida on a rainy, wet course, it's all sandy and nasty. Whereas cross is not like that. You might get some mud. Josh used to have, there's one section in the first race where there's like a mud section. And so sometimes you have to run through it. It's so muddy. Sometimes you can ride through it. But that's the fun of it. Like it's not like dangerous. Like you're sliding down this mud. It's flat mud. So, do you have a question? Look like you're about to. The question is a non-race or non-competitive type cross racing. I think you're probably looking at gravel events. But the good thing about cross too is you can make it competitive or you can just do it for fun.
I guess I was more asking less about structured events.
You could only go out during the race weekend because literally they'll go Friday, they'll set up the course, they'll put up all the course tape in the park, and Sunday afternoon they tear it down.
So if you wanted to practice or you wanted to just do a fun cyclocross ride on the weekend with a couple of friends or by yourself.
So what I thought about doing with this group, if we're the GCC group, is to do some like group cyclocross stuff where I've got some PVC barriers that I've made for practice. So that's the other thing about cross is there's usually one place on each lap that you have to get off and run over, like run upstairs or run over barriers. And the barriers are only like this high, so it's just like stepping over something. So,
I'm so surprised. I'm like, wait, what? You get off the bike?
If you don't want, like if you're not really riding competitive and you can just step over the barriers easily. As you get more competitive, there's a technique where you can clip out and take 2 steps and hop over the barriers and jump back on your bike. So exactly. So I've made some barriers that we can practice on. One of the ways that I just kind of get familiar with riding my cross bike really well is to go out to San Francisco and ride single track. It's a little rooty, and so you can't fly like you do on a mountain bike. You got to take it easy, but it still kind of helps you corner the bike and stuff like that. If you can ride a cross bike on single track, you're totally fine on a cross course. Cross courses are literally, it's like riding through a grass field. And then you'll hit some hills and some off-camber stuff, and then you'll ride through a sand pit, and then you'll jump over barriers.
You don't ride suspension, right? Do you?
No. So the question was suspension. So it's just like a gravel or cross bike. Now you'll see people on mountain bikes, and I think most people probably start cross racing on a mountain bike just because that's what they have. So they'll race in fact, Josh used to have a mountain bike category. I don't think he did it last year. I don't think he had enough people that did it, but there was a mountain bike category. Another thing about cross is, so the races are either, I think Cat 5 is 30 minutes, 30 or 45. And then the longest cross race would be an hour, and that's like the Pro 1-2, or maybe Cat 3, I think is an hour. And so I don't know if you've ever done a criterium road race or know what it is, but it's by lap, or it's by time. And then they'll, like after the first few laps, they'll get an idea of how fast that group is going. And then they'll start holding up cards that say 3 laps to go, 2 laps to go, 1 lap to go. If someone is in the back and they get lapped by the beginning rider, then you're on whatever lap they're doing. So like if the lead rider is doing 6 laps and he passes someone in the back, that person only does like 5 laps because they've already been passed. If that makes sense.
And you get pulled. So do you get pulled in cross racing?
Locally, they don't pull you. Nope. They just say you're done when you cross the finish line. In a national race, you would get pulled. What else? So gear, you asked about pedals. So mountain bike pedals, because they're double-sided. Because when you get off, you don't want to be looking down and trying to figure out what side of the pedal to clip on. You just want to step back on the pedal and go. SPD. Yeah, that's the most popular. There's different kind of cleats you can buy. So there's the multi-release cleats where you can clip out really easily. And then there's the regular kind where you have to put your heel completely sideways. Those also do a good job with mud, so you have to run through mud and get back on your bike. They don't clog up. Yeah. What else?
Is there any, like, so it's not like road racing where you're in a team and you have a strategy with your teammates?
There's no drafting doesn't, so the question was teams and working with teams. So there's really no drafting because you're going 12 to 15 miles an hour. It just doesn't work. I mean, there might be a few people that are on the same team, but they're not working together in the cross race. It's every person for themselves. Yeah. But like I said, the cool thing about it is, so people will be there for their own race, but they're watching you race, and they're either cheering you on or making fun of you, like, telling you to go faster or whatever. But it's just kind of the nature of it. Like when you get into like the big cross races, and Spooky Cross is probably the biggest one we have. There'll be people like just on the side heckling people. It's fun. It's not, like I said, it's not the uber competitive road racing or stuff like that. It's people make it fun. What else?
So when you go out, like these are like 30 minutes and an hour is like pretty short for me. Like you like 100% for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
It's like
So
all out.
yeah, it's all out. If you want it to be, I mean, you don't have to. Like, there was a guy who races in my class that just does it for fun, and I'll probably pass him twice during the race. I'll lap him twice, but he's just out there to have fun because he loves being out there. But that's why I train doing short intervals, like 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, or 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. I train on gravel or mountain bike. I'll do time lapse on my mountain bike. Just because it's very similar to cross. Cross is, there's not that consistent pedaling for 5 minutes. You might crank up a hill, come around a corner, coast down a hill. I mean, probably the most you're pedaling at one time is 30 seconds to a minute. Because there's a lot of cornering, like the bottom bracket height. Yeah, so the question is bottom bracket height. I don't think it matters a whole lot. So there's two different styles of cross bikes. The European cross bikes have a higher bottom bracket. The American cross bikes have a lower bottom bracket. Specialized has a lower bottom bracket. Giant has a higher bottom bracket. The advantage to a higher bottom bracket really is if you're pedaling around a corner or an off-camber section, you don't hit your pedal on the ground. They are a little bit more tipsy. You're higher up. And if when you jump back on your bike, you have to jump just a tad higher. The lower bottom brackets feel a little more flowy, but you do have the chance of hitting your pedal. But if you're not like uber competitive, you're not trying to get every pedal stroke per lap. So you're not like cranking into a corner or whatever, or cranking out of a corner. So it's not that big of a deal. I wouldn't worry about it.
So I think that all three of us are roadies.
Yeah.
I have a very important question. Do your wheels ever leave the ground?
Not really. Nope. I've only seen one person get hurt in a cyclocross race, and it's because the race promoters put a little jump about this high, and some guy who didn't know how to jump went over it and went over the bars and like hurt his shoulder. Yeah. He just like endoed off the jump. He didn't know how to jump. That's the only part. Now I'm sure other people have gotten hurt in a cross race, but it's not like a road event where you crash and you're off the bike for 2 months. Like you just get up and keep going. Exactly. So it's very safe. And I've heard someone say it's the hardest 12 miles an hour you'll ride on a bike. Like,
So that's like, I don't know, mentally that would be challenging for me. I think
That's challenging for
because I'm like
me
used
too.
to going 20,
Yeah.
and then I'm going 12. I think that's
it's more of a grind as opposed to just a smooth on the road pedaling. And then getting, one of the funnest challenges for me is trying to get through a sand pit without sometimes I'll run through sand just because I can get through it faster than if I tried to ride. If the sand pit is real long, you're better off running because when you go through it, you go slower and slower and slower until you're almost at a stop.
I watched that in your video.
Yeah.
I watched like the first 3 minutes of your talking video, and I was at work, and I was like, no, I can't have the talking on.
Yeah.
But then I watched
And sometimes, like, the master's class, for some reason, are earlier in the morning, like 9 o'clock, 9 or 10. And there's a lot of dew on the grass. Well, it's not really. It's more like if you hit the sand with dew on your tires, it'll just coat your tires with sand. And so if it's an early morning race with a lot of dew on the grass, I'll run through the sand because I don't want to just like hear my drivetrain, creak and stuff like that from the sand.
you put knobbies on.
Yeah. So if you're using a gravel bike, you'll probably the only change I would recommend is to get a set of cyclocross tires. Maxxis makes some of my favorite cyclocross tires, and I always mount them up tubeless. And you don't have to, but I run pretty low pressure, so I'll run like 25 in the front and 27 in the back. 33C. Yeah, but I'm light, so adjust accordingly. I'm 143 pounds, so I can get away with low pressure.
Like 33, is that pretty standard?
That's the 33C is the UCI regulation. Like I said, locally they don't care, but most people run that because they want to get used to it in case they do a bigger race.
That's pretty small. Because I think my road bike will take 32s.
Yeah, road bikes usually go up to 28, maybe 30. A 32 would be a big road tire.
Where would you go?
So bike shops, Super Cool is my favorite shop in town. That's 34th and University. They carry Specialized, and Specialized makes the Crux, which is a great bike. My current cyclocross bike is a Giant TCX that I've used. I've used the TCX for like 3 or 4 years. I love it. Bike Works just closed down, and so they were the Giant dealer. I don't know who's going to pick up Giant. I've heard it's going to be Chain Reaction. I don't know. But I know Super Cool carries Specialized, and Specialized is a little bit like you pay a few $100s more for Specialized.
Just like 1 by
Good question. 1 by versus 2 by. I totally prefer 1 by for cross because it's less to go wrong, and you just don't need two chain rings. That being said, when I started out, I was on 2 chain rings and never really had a problem. But just 1 by is going to save weight and it's going to be less complexity, so less to go wrong. So most full-on cyclocross bikes today are always 1 by. It's just like mountain bikes. It's universal. Because you'll never find a cyclocross race course with a 3-mile climb. All the climbs are steep, but they only last 10, 15 seconds. You pound it out. Yeah, you just crank it out. And the ones that are too steep to crank it out, you just run up it. You just get off your bike and run.
They're really fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, if you watch like go online and watch like a Belgian cyclocross race, those are some serious courses. Yeah, those are serious. Yeah, that'd be a long one. They're probably not that long. But I think I've seen races like that where the hills are pretty long. But around here, you're obviously not gonna have them that long. But like I said, the War Series courses are going to have the most hills, and they're the funnest courses. Any more questions?
You wear the same clothes as road riding.
Yes. So clothing is spandex, road jersey. The only difference really is the shoes. You can wear the same helmet as road racing. Typically, you would only have 1 water bottle cage because you just don't need to. The races are so short. So in a cross race, there's the pit area. Okay, the pit area is where people keep an extra bike or an extra set of wheels There's also typically a feed zone where people can hand you a water bottle. Because sometimes the races are so short, you just don't want to carry a water bottle on your bike, just the extra weight. So someone can hand you a bottle, you take a swig and you throw it down. You don't need to bring food. I bring a gel. So like 30 minutes in, I may take a gel if I'm going real hard, just to kind of make sure I have enough carbohydrate. Another thing is most cyclocross race weekends, there will be a race on Saturday and a race on Sunday. Same course. Some race promoters will have the race go the same direction both days. Some race promoters will reverse the course the next day, just to kind of mix it up.
So you race both days?
Yes, you race both days. So that's another cool thing about cross is it doesn't wipe you out like a mountain bike race would or a long road race. You can go home or go back to your hotel and just hang out, watch football, have fun. You get up the next day, you feel good, you race, you feel good. A lot of times I'm faster on Sunday than I am on Saturday. I don't know why. I guess my body's just getting primed. And then Monday morning, you're not just completely flat like if you did a brevet or yeah. So even mountain bike racing, I would be dead for 3 days after a mountain bike race. Cross, I can ride Monday, no problem.
You don't do like 6,000 calories in a whole.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not eating everything under the sun the next day. Most people don't. I eat a lot. Like I'm the kind of person I would eat a Clif Bar during a mountain bike race, whereas most people wouldn't. So I would say most people don't. Most people would just do like electrolyte mix in their water bottle. And a lot of times I won't even use my gel. I just keep it there just in case. Like I start to feel a little. Like I used to have blood sugar drops. I used to get hypoglycemic. I've cut out Clif Bars and anything with high sugar content, and I've had no problem. My blood sugar levels have been really steady. But I used to just carry the gel just in case I felt my blood sugar start to drop. But a lot of times I won't touch it because I like heat, so I put heat in my water bottle, and that's all I use. But a lot of guys you'll see won't even have a water bottle, especially as we get past October, when it's colder out, you don't even need a water bottle.
Yeah, like that would be.
And you can't just tuck in behind somebody for a second and draft.
That's right. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about a water bottle.
So if I don't even have a cross bike, but I have a 26 mountain bike that's a piece of crap.
I would do it just to see if you like it.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people start off on a mountain bike just because they have it and it works. The only thing about a road bike is the head angle is going to be steeper, and so it's going to be a little bit more twitchy. So if you're heading down a short, steep hill, that head angle is going to be really steep. Yeah, endurance road bikes have slacker geometry, so slacker head angle, because you want it to be more stable. So you're not fighting the bike as much while you're riding, because if you're riding an endurance road bike for 8 hours, the more you fight the bike, the more fatigue your muscles are going to get. Well, so last night on my YouTube channel, for the first time, I started organizing my videos into playlists, and I made a cyclocross playlist. So I have a few videos about like how to do barriers, how to do barriers, just a couple others that. I think I put that. I'm still doing this, so I'll put some more videos in there that I have. But if y'all want, we can do like I said, a little training, and I can kind of show you the technique of getting over barriers and clipping out. So if you practice, you typically will always clip out your right foot first, because you want to stand on the left side of the bike, because that's the non-drive side. You don't want to get a chain ring in your calf. Exactly. Every once in a while you'll see someone clip out on the right side or go to the right side of the bike, but most people don't. There's a little technique to it, but it's not real hard to get. What else?
Sound like an album.
So just to kind of like fill you in, like there's two methods of clipping out. One's called the step-through method, where you clip out and then you step your right foot through the bike and your left leg. And so when you click out, you're kind of in this running motion. Most people recommend not doing that anymore. It's a little dangerous. Yeah. it's yeah. So most people. Yeah, most people like you clip out and you swing this leg over, and you just kind of keep it behind your left leg, and then you just clip out and step. It's very like it's a lot more intuitive than it sounds. If you've ever seen somebody just rolling up to a coffee shop and they clip out, swing around, and just step off, that's all it is.
Okay. That's how I get off my bike.
Yeah, then you're probably already used to the motion. And then even clipping out your left foot is very natural because your weight's kind of coming over, and it's almost like you're holding back from not clipping out. As soon as you commit to clip out, it just pops right out. And if you have any intimidation, all you do is you just loosen the tension on that left pedal so that you come out super easy. Yeah.
So the shoes, do you like use shoes with like a weaker spine in them? Or like they're inset?
Yeah. No, I use my mountain bike shoes with a carbon reinforced sole. And
you're not running for that long?
no.
Okay.
The only, you'll run over the barriers, which is probably like 8 steps. And then you may run up some steps or run up a little hill. That's it. That's all the running.
What's 12 miles an hour in minutes? If people just run with their bike. Except like a 5-minute mile pace.
Yeah, I don't think you'd win a race by running with your bike. So that's another. So if you ever have a mechanical on a cross race and you want to go to the pit, you cannot go backwards for obvious reasons, for safety. So like if you just pass the pit on a lap and you have a mechanical, you've got to go all the way around. But a lot of courses will pass the pit twice in one lap. So you pass it kind of one direction and pass it another, and so you're only going half a lap. No, they just kind of loop around. Most laps will take about 6 to 8 minutes to complete.
How many laps are like what's normal?
7, 8 laps. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a cross race where you have more than like 8 laps.
That's in master class. So like Cat 5.
Cat 5, you're gonna, yeah, they're just go, yeah, that's right. It's a shorter time, so. What else? I mean, gear, the main thing is tires and pedals. You're not carrying like flat fixing stuff. I mean, you can, but if you flat in a cross race, I mean, it's such a short race, you just drop out. Oh, another thing is, a lot of people do multiple races in one day. So like if I wanted to do the Cat 2 or Cat 3 race and the Masters race, I can do them both in one day. And people do that for practice, especially if you're driving a long way. And if it's like the Sunday, so like if I'm going to race Saturday, Sunday, and I want to be fresh for Sunday, I probably won't race twice on Saturday. But on Sunday, I may do 2 races just for training. Just the second would just not make it very competitive. And there's also single speed. People do single speed. There's a whole single speed class in cyclocross. So a lot of guys will race masters and single speed. Yeah. And every once in a while you get some crazy that does a fixed gear. So
people ride fixie?
Every once in a while, not many. The psychotic people do. Yeah. What else? Any more questions?
Like carbon frame versus steel frame or anything like that?
I mean, a carbon frame is going to be faster than a steel typically because it's not going to flex as much. It's going to be lighter, but you're probably talking a couple seconds per lap. But steel frames are smoother, so you might be fresher at the end of a race on a steel frame. So.
Yeah. But like at that duration, you can probably deal with it.
No, aluminum works too. My first cross race bike was aluminum. I just find aluminum is a little bit harsher than carbon, but a lot of people have aluminum cross bikes. They're light, they're stiff, they're fast. They're just less forgiving than a carbon bike, but I mean, for the price, you can't beat aluminum.
People are pretty cool and relaxed, and
people are great.
Yeah. Like if I show up on a mountain bike, they're not going to make
Oh,
it.
no.
Or they will, but it'll be fun.
Not the only time they would make fun of you is if you're racing at a high level and you're super fast, and then they'd be like, you know, get on a cross bike. Like there's this guy in my class who used to race a mountain bike, and he would win a lot. He was really fast, and so by the end of the series, everybody's like, get a cross bike, get a cross bike. You're just giving them crap for it, but it's not like they're serious. Like I mean they're tiny serious, but they're also like it's whatever.
So is the idea that guy is
I think on some courses you do. I would probably say you're going to be a tad faster on a mountain bike because of the amount of speed you can carry through corners. And there was one hill where there was a run up, and he actually rode it. It's a super steep. In fact, that video that I said this is a run up, and you see us like running up that hill. He rode it on his mountain bike.
Really?
So,
Mostly be,
thank you. But like I said, the purists will be on cross bikes. Cross bikes are really versatile, so commuters, gravel bikes, racing cross. I mean, that's, and put road tires on them, you could do road rides on them. So they're just really versatile bikes. I think in Florida, a cross bike is great on gravel roads. A lot of people prefer a cross bike because of how fast they are. So, like, if there's a pothole or something they got to get around, you can just do a little bit better on a cross bike. I'm gonna kill the video here. So that's it for tonight's cyclocross informational meeting. See you.